another episode of Confidently Insecure. I am your host, Kelsey Darragh, and we're Jones. We are Jones, but we are joined by the one and only Hippo Darragh in the new podcast studio. In case you haven't been here in a minute, let me welcome you to my new place. This is the move I've been talking about for weeks, for episodes now. I have been in the process of moving. We're finally a little bit more settled. You can see a little bit more of the studio. It's slowly coming together, and Hippo thought he would join. He's all out of breath because he's been playing and chewing on his toy. If you hear some pornographic sounds in the background, that's a giant pit bull. Don't worry. Everyone's fine. How are we feeling, confidants? I want to jump right into this episode because obviously the content is God, I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, and man, just a heads up, I'm recovering from the flu. As you can hear in my sinuses, I sound a little funky, but we're gonna get through it. This is a lot to take in. This is something I haven't talked about publicly at all, period. So bear with me as I keep the trauma together. You know how this podcast is. We fucking joke around to cover up our feelings. Drinking a Celsius. Not sponsored, sparkling orange. Keeping me alive. Let's dive right into it, shall we? I got swatted by the FBI. What? Where do we even begin, confidants? Okay, so what is swatting? In case you don't know, there's actually an episode about swatting on a Netflix series called Death by Swatting that kind of explains it in greater detail. But essentially, swatting was created amongst the live stream revenge community. So I think it started out as a harmless prank where fans of live streamers would call a pizza delivery to their favorite YouTube or live streamer's house while they were on live stream, and then the live streamer would have to get up and answer the door and be like, I didn't order a pizza, and they'd be like, oh, well, someone gave it to you, this person ordered it for you, and then someone in the chat would be like, that was me. And I'm pretty sure it started off as a harmless thing. But what was creepy about that from the jump was that people were able to find out the addresses of creators, which is something we all do to we all take precautions and protections and try to keep our privacy, because the most invasive thing aside from a home invasion is having people show up where you live uninvited. It's very unsettling. It's hard to sleep. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that about 4 years ago, wow, 4 years, that's crazy. Time flies. I dealt with a home invasion of a crazy person who it really scarred me. I can't talk too much about it because I signed paperwork that said I wouldn't give detail, but I had to move from that place because I developed such intense agoraphobia. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't leave my house, frankly. If I got in a car with a friend and we started driving down the road, I would start having a panic attack, and it really fucked up my mental health in a way that I don't think I ever really showed the internet that bad, but I was really going through it. And I moved to this new place where I got crazy security cameras. There was gates and big walls and things that were supposed to protect me from the outside world, and hid my address as well from public information as one can. And I felt like I was in a good place at my last place that I moved from and loved and lived for a while. It was a place that I went through heartbreak in. An ex moved out from there. It's the place where Hippo and I met and grew up, and where he got adopted. And I just really loved that place. And I felt good and safe there. And Hippo, please, no playing while I'm talking about trauma. He's like, oh, I can sense it's coming. Stop. So swatting became really popular, I guess, in like 2016, 2017, when like live streaming kind of popped off, when Twitch was a thing, where troll behavior and trolling became a big thing, and like anonymous keyboard trolls, hiding behind their keyboards, could call a SWAT team. They would call in like a fake crime to a live streamer or creator's house, with the hopes that the SWAT team shows up while they are on live stream, and like it gets captured on the live stream event. Hippo, your mouth hurts me. And there's like videos of this all over the internet. Like you can find montages of like so many people getting swatted, where they're in the middle of a live stream and the cops bust in, and they get temporarily put into they get detained, and then it's like chaos. And I guess people thought this was like hilarious. And in this documentary on Netflix, they talk about a swatting gone wrong, where essentially SWAT team showed up to the wrong address of it was supposed to be a streamer's place, and it was like an innocent guy at home. He stepped outside, a trigger happy cop pew-pewed him, and he is no longer with us. And the waves that sent through his family, 2 other people in his family unalived themselves because of the trauma and things like that. And like the cops were never held accountable, blah, blah, blah. Not to minimize it, but it's like pretty traumatic. And I remember watching that and just being like, because I'm such a documentary freak, and just being like, wow, that's crazy that happens to people. And like, I'm so glad I'm not in the live stream world where I see like women have to deal with harassment and stuff on the daily, where it just seems like I'm already dealing with enough. Like I do not need to deal with that like hateful side of the internet too. So I feel like, ever since working at BuzzFeed, I know I represent a group of people, women, minority, mentally ill, with queer like content, and I piss a lot of people off, being in like half comedy, half social justice, half like entertainment podcasting. I touch on a lot of various strong opinioned things in my career, and I have pretty strong opinions, and I'm not afraid of helping people be seen. That's like my purpose here. That's my why. I don't mind fighting the good fight. And I speak out about so many different issues. I'm very pro women. And I never, ever in a million trillion years, because I'm not in the live stream world or really in like a super controversial space of like that gaming life, I never thought in a million trillion years that I would be dealing with a swatting. This happened exactly a year ago to the day. Happy SWATiversary. And I did not tell a single soul publicly, except for my very close circle of friends, for reasons that actually were really scary. And I will explain more about it. But I wanted to share the experience now that I'm far enough away from it, and obviously have left that residence, and sort of bring awareness to this thing that can happen, and just tell you about like one of the craziest nights of my life. So I was with the guy that I'm with now, the athlete, as you all know, and he moved in pretty quickly after we met. Like it turned into like a roommate / turned into dating. And we had only been dating like 4 months up to this point. And he knew what I did. And like, I feel like my peak of recognition was the BuzzFeed days, where that's where I couldn't really go places without someone being like, oh my gosh, I watch your videos, or like, I'm a fan of BuzzFeed, or say hi to the Try Guys or something. Now it's very chill. Like it's not like, I don't feel like a celebrity. I don't feel famous. It's not that thing. But like back then, maybe it was like cool because that was the rise of the YouTube era. And so when we started dating, I never felt like I needed to tell him like, oh, this is the part of my life you're going to have to like accept this crazy thing of my day. Like my identity is part, like I have to put these things online. Like that's just, it was never that intense. So, you know, when he moved in, he knew I had dealt with a home invasion before, and I was, a registered gun owner, and I did that because it helps me sleep at night. I feel more protected. It was something that I am like very anti-gun and pro background checks, and in the right scenario, I think women should learn how to use them. And so yeah, I had gun owner signs around the house too, just like outside on the fence and things like that to I wanted to feel like if someone was looking at the house from the outside, they thought like a Republican man lived there. It was very like, we don't dial 911 here, and like nothing in here is worth your life, and protected property owner. And I just wanted people to fear ever coming into my safe space again. And I feel like it was working. And I sleep with my gun next to my bed every single night. And when the athlete moved in, everyone knows I like to sleep alone, no matter how much I like you. Even with my partner of 5 years, he had his own bed. I had my room upstairs. Athlete had his room downstairs. And that, you know, we would say goodnight to each other, go to our respective places, and live our lives. So after the home invasion, I was always very on edge with like noises, but I live in the city. So of course you're going to hear screams and creaks and helicopters and things. But I found myself very unnerved whenever, like, my sleep went to shit the last couple of years, and I would hear a little thing and I'd be wide awake and I'd be like, what happened? What's going on? Like, ready at the moment, right? Like, even Garrick bought me a sight, like, flashlight for my gun, because he was like, I just feel like you probably need to be more protected in your own, like, safety. And so I, you know, got this strapped up loaded gat, and it's next to my bed, and you know, regular night of the week, nothing interesting had happened that I thought had happened. I go to bed, and sure enough, I wake up in what I think's the middle of the night. It's still dark outside, and I hear the athlete's voice like yelling out to somebody. And I'm like confused because I'm kind of asleep, and I hear him yelling, and I thought I heard him say, "You're not supposed to be here." I thought I heard him yelling that at someone. So I immediately go into like fight or flight, and I sleep in the nude because I'm an adult and I can do that. So I just remember these things, okay? I'm nude in my bed on high alert after dealing with a home invasion, and I am armed with a weapon. So that's me upstairs. I'm going to tell from the athlete's perspective because he is the one that woke up first. His bedroom was on the first floor, and he said he was sleeping, and suddenly in his window were these like really bright lights. And we live in a city, like I said, not like a crazy busy street, but sure, if there was like lights in the window, it wouldn't be that crazy. But he said it was like floodlights. So he woke him up, and he said he could hear voices like very close. And because of like the riffraff that you get living in the city, sometimes you catch a stray, you know, unhoused person rummaging through your garbage or whatever. Like, it's not, we weren't like, I don't think he was immediately alarmed. And he's a pretty big dude. And so he said he like got up, he's in his boxers. This is all very important information, I swear. These are important details. And he says he opens his bedroom door that goes out into our living room, and my dog Hippo's like kind of like alert in his crate. He, you know, he sleeps in his crate locked up every night. And he said coming through our living room windows were just like the brightest floodlights. And he's like, what's going on? Like, I think he thinks like, oh shit, what's popping off outside? Like, what's going on with somebody else? You know, like, what is it? And so he's like, what are these voices? And he goes towards the window, and he hears from outside, there's movement in the house. And he said, like, at that moment, he realized, oh, shit, are they talking about us? Is this play about us? And at that point, I think his like instinct took over, like, oh no, this is law enforcement of some sort. Floodlights. Okay, I'm moving in the house behind the window. They think okay, holy shit, let me open the door, the front door. And like, it's not funny now, it's not funny ever. And it's definitely not funny in the context of like the world with cops and the way that they harm people. And I smiled because like I think I'm nervous and I'm still like, dealing with the fallout of that all. But it could have gone very badly, him opening the door. He's in his boxers. It's 5:00 in the morning. Sun's still gone. It's dark as shit outside. And he opens the door and it's floodlights, just blinding floodlights, and a whole bunch of pew-pews pointing at him. And someone's talking over a speaker and is like, don't move, put your hands up. And he puts his hands up. And the crazy thing is that I have all of this on camera from our security cameras. And I'm going to share a little bit of footage with you guys just so you can understand like the intensity of the situation. On my iPad playing now is the actual SWAT team like moving in on the house with their lights up my driveway. And this, I think, is when athletes started to like hear someone outside of his window because his window's right there. I don't want to play the sound so you can like hear what they're saying, but they're basically saying like, yeah, you go around this way, like, bro, you go this way, like, we're gonna go from this side, like, make sure you're there, and all that jazz. And so athlete sticks his head out and goes, what's going on? And they're saying, come on with your hands up, put your hands up. No movement. Da 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 da. And he said right before he had gone out, he realized that he needed to set his phone down because he said he didn't know how he thought of it so quickly, but that if he had gone out there with a phone in his hand, that it might be mistaken for a pew pew. So he had like put his phone down, like, thank God. And this is like a blurry screenshot of him walking outside of the door. I don't know if you can really see it, but that's like how bright it was. Like it almost looks like an alien invasion. You can't really even like see anything beyond the door because it's so bright outside. So they yell, who else is in the house? And they go, is anyone else inside? And he says, yeah, someone upstairs. And they go, who? And he goes, Kelsey? As if they're going to know. Like, whatever. It's funny to me that he was just like, Kelsey, I guess? Like, what? And they're like, okay, did you call 911? And he's like, no. And they do not care. He said no, and it was almost like they went in one ear and out the other. They don't care because they're here on a mission. And they're, come out slowly, turn around, hands up against the wall. And now I'm going to cut back to me upstairs in my bedroom. That's the point where I have woken up, realized Henny is yelling at someone. I grab my pew-pew. I am butt naked. And I come down my stairs and I see the front door is wide open and there's blasted light coming through. And in my head, I'm just like, I can't figure out why this would be happening. I'm going through all these things in my head. I'm like, were we getting robbed again? And the cops showed up. Like, did someone run through our yard when like the cops are like, I never in a million years did I get swatting. So I come down, pew pew in my hand. Like, I'm ready to step out the front door of my house with a pew pew with cops pointing their pew pews at me. And I thank God I had the awareness to realize like this is law enforcement and not like a fucking alien invasion. And I had this credenza right by my front door. And I knew, I was like, okay, I'm going to put the pew pew on the credenza with like my hand over it. And I'm going to stick my head out the side of the door and see what the fuck is going on. And man, I got a screenshot of that like I would get tattooed on me. I don't know if you guys can properly see it. Because it's a sight. It's me butt naked with my head out my own front door. And you can't really see where the pew pew is off to the side, but I'm sticking my head around the door and the lights are just like blasting into my face. Like, it's just such a sight to see. And I remember sticking my head out the door and being like, why are all these cops pointing their pew-pews at me? What is going on? My iPad's not loading the picture, so I'll open it on my phone. I cropped out my nudity so you can't see, but it's me sticking my head around the front door being like, what? And I just look like a freaking cartoon character doing that. And they're yelling, "Come on, your hands up. Don't move any movements." Blah, blah, blah. And I go, "I'm naked." And they go, "Okay, well, put some clothes on and then come outside." And I literally go, "What?" And they're like, "Put some clothes on and come outside." I go, hold on. And I go, "My dog's also here." And I turn around and I see Henny is in handcuffs pushed up against a police car. And he ain't from here. And the first thought that goes through my head is this man not who he says he is? Like, is he getting deported? What did he do? I was so confused. And I'm like, in what world would it make sense that he is handcuffed up against a police car? Like, nothing makes sense for that to be happening. So I kind of like shut the door. Like, I don't shut the front door. I kind of like shut it just to like hide my nude body. And I go, hold on. And I walk into my house, into his room, and I grab just like the closest sweatshirt and shorts I can find of his. I throw it on. I leave my pew pew on the credenza because I'm like, okay, I'm talking to cops. So like theoretically I shouldn't bring it out. And I go outside with my hands up and they're giving me instructions. And I just remember like I'd never been more dialed in, like adrenaline, fear, like having that many pew pew barrels pointing at me was so weird. Like, I've been on set before with like action sequences. I've been around pew pews growing up in my life, but like you almost want to like duck. Like my instinct if someone's like pointing a pew pew at me is to like move out of the way. And so I'm literally like kind of like I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why are you guys pointing that shit at me? And I'm like, I think I'm like asking that, and they're like, we'll figure everything out. We're gonna figure that out. Just come over here, do what we're saying. And so I come out of my front door. Mind you, I'm walking out of the gates that have pew pew signs all over them saying, "We got pew pews." Because I wanted to look like a Republican. And I can only imagine that the cops had seen those and they were like, oh, we got them, boys. And I walk out now basically like to the closest officer who is basically in front of my neighbor's house. That's like how far I had to walk. And suddenly I'm like roughed up, like my arms are grabbed. She like pushes me up against the concrete wall. And I notice that she's shaking. And the first thing I say out is, "Why are you shaking?" Like, I could tell she was so fucking nervous. And I was like, "Why the fuck are you nervous? Like, do you have all the people? Like, is this your first night as a cop? Like, what the fuck?" And she turns me around. She puts handcuffs on me. I'm facing the athlete. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? And he goes, "They said there was a shooting." And I'm like, what? And I'm like trying to find answers, but it's such chaos because the lights, all the people yelling, I can hear Hippo barking like crazy now at this point, which he never barks. And I'm like, what do you mean there was a shooting? And when we come back from this quick break, we'll get to the rest of it. Whoa! So we are both now handcuffed, pushed up against cop cars, being treated as criminals. I see a SWAT team entering my house. I'm freaking out because I keep watching videos on the Clock app that show officers harming people's dogs during like arrests and during them being confronted with what they think is an aggressive dog. And so I immediately start bawling, saying, my dog's inside. My dog, please don't hurt my dog. Please, he's a pit bull. He's crated. And like, I'm not even like, I'm just, it was all really a blur. And everything was happening so fast. And I am like, I have a gun, by the way. I was like, there's a gun on the table. I left it there. I'm a registered firearm owner. You can check all the paperwork is upstairs, but just so you know. And so I hear them like calling out to them, and there's all these radios and people talking to people. And I'm like, fucking A, there's like 25, 30 people like just surrounding the house. Like it was just so many people. I was like, holy shit, like what is going on? And so there's like kind of officers talking to me and the athlete, and I'm like, what is happening? And he's like, they said that someone called about a shooting at this address. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, of course there's not. I'm like, what do you fucking mean? Like, no, we were sleeping. What do you even mean? And the officer who is in charge of us is like, somebody called saying they were a man that just unalived his wife and he was going to do the kids next. And it's basically an active shooter live hostage situation that somebody called in with. And as soon as they say, like, you know, those details in little bits and pieces, because they're like, how many people are in the house? They kept asking us who else is in the house. And we're like, nobody. Like, we're like, is there somebody else in the house? Like, did somebody jump the fucking fence that you guys are chasing? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, and like as soon as they said that story, like the call-in scenario, my brain immediately remembered the doc I watched and the swatter that they had on audio that they would like play during the documentary had like a very similar story. Like, I have this weapon, I've done this crime, and I'm gonna do it again unless you guys send someone here right now. Like, I'm going crazy. I need help. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm nervous. I might have killed her. Blah blah blah. And as soon as I said that, as soon as I heard them say that, I go, oh my god, we're getting swatted. And as soon as I said that, all the officers are kind of like that are around us are kind of looking at each other, and I see just kind of like the energy shift. Now, mind you, this is our one little part of the driveway. The street is still lined with all of them. I'm hearing helicopters coming. There's a fuck ton of people in my house, and that was the thing that like I realized scared me a lot, was that we could be telling them information out here, but like the guys inside are on a mission. Like, I'm hearing them yelling and like, clear this room upstairs. Like, is there anyone else in the house? Come on. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we all need to get on the same page, you guys. Like, what some things are happening out here, and you guys are all the way in there. Like, I don't know what you're doing in there. Is my dog safe? Like, are you fucking up my shit? Like, is there somebody in my house? Are you here to protect us? Are you here to hurt us? Like, it was, I just remember being like really upset that they did not have a way to communicate with the people inside that were doing something, and I was trying to clear things up outside. So that's when the athlete's like, oh my god, do you really think, like, do you think? And they're like, what are you an internet celebrity? And I'm like, no, not like yes, but no, like not one that matters, not one that this should be happening to. And I say, like, I make videos. And one of them is like, oh, are you an OnlyFans creator? And I was like, fuck you, dude. Like, what are you even talking about? Shut the fuck up. Like, thank you, but no. These tatas look big enough to be an OnlyFans creator getting swatted from a live stream. Like, no. But as soon as I start saying that, like, I'm hearing them go like, oh, the potential swatting, da-da-da, like telling other people, some other people are coming over. Oh, let me take a breath. Hold on. And I just remember being like, you guys either have the wrong house or this is a swatting. You either have the wrong, that's not happening here, or this is a swatting. They're even like checking my neighbors' yards and shit because I think maybe they had like thought, did someone potentially try to run or escape or whatever. And so now we're kind of like more in the middle of the street, and I'm getting more and more of my awareness back. Like, I don't think I'm operating off of fight or flight entirely as much as now I'm starting to put pieces together, and I'm starting to get fucking angry. And I'm angry at the cops because I'm like, why am I roughed up, pushed to the ground, thrown with handcuffs, thrown up against a police car, being ignored when I am the victim of a crime? Like, I get that they don't understand that that's what's happening, but I knew it way before they did, and I start to get really angry. So I'm still in handcuffs, and I'm like, fucking what the fuck? Like, unhandcuff me, dude. Like, clearly there's no shooter in there. That clearly there's no crime. Like, and they're just, we're figuring it out. We're figuring everything out. And I'm like, yo, this is fucking crazy. And I just remember saying, like, this is crazy. Like, what the fuck? This is crazy. And just looking at the athlete, like, I think we were both in such disbelief that, like, just looking at each other was like the only thing that brought us down to reality. It was like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy, right? Did you do something? No. Did you? No. Okay. So, like, what? And as they're doing like the sweep of the house or whatever, the athlete and I talk about how funny this is that this happened, but like, I don't know how else to say this. I am upset that we're still being handcuffed and we're still being treated like criminals, and I'm like yelling at the cops now, and I turn to the people that are like babysitting us and I say, I want to talk to your manager. I went full, y'all, Karen, my white jumped out, and I told the FBI that I wanted to speak to their manager because I didn't like the service I was getting in that moment. And boy, oh boy, it couldn't have been funny enough timing, but it turns out like their sergeant or captain or, like, I don't know who the hell's in charge. As I'm saying that, that person is walking up to the scene of this alleged crime. And they're coming right up to us, and I'm yelling, and like I noticed that they're like important and people are going over there and telling information. So I'm looking at them being like, yeah, we like, this is a false like someone is swatting us. Why am I in fucking handcuffs? And I see the cop kind of like realize what's going on and like, yeah, all right, they get them out of handcuffs. And like then some other important person was over and was like, get them out of handcuffs. Like, listen, you guys are victims of a crime. And I'm like, you fucking thing. Like, bro, I was so 2 steps ahead of these motherfuckers. I was so angry at anything that they were going to talk to me about. So finally, this is also like 20 minutes now that have gone by. And the people are coming out of my house, realizing like there's nothing in there for them. And I'm yelling. I finally get out of the handcuffs, and I'm like, you guys, I keep saying, like, you guys just can't fucking arrest people. Like, you guys just can't handcuff me and fucking throw me. Like, why was your cop so fucking nervous? Like, you guys can't just like handle this like this. And they're like, how would you have liked us to handle this? I go, knock on my door. And they're like, you don't understand. We have been called here that there's an active shooter hostage situation. You want me to knock on your door? And I'm like, bro, clearly like the lights are off. We were in the middle of sleeping. Clearly nothing was happening. And they're like, we don't know that. We don't know that. How do we know you're not going to open the door and open fire on us? And I'm like, I'm starting to understand where they're coming from. And yet like nothing feels validated. Nothing feels right. Like I understand it. And even like still to this day, I'm like, I get it. They had to treat this like it was, but that could have been, God forbid, you know, like we were people of color, like this situation would have been completely different, much more harrowing. You know, God forbid they thought Henny was holding a gun, or like that I had brought mine out, or, you know, there were so many ways had we not complied correctly. Like there were just so many, if Hippo would have been out of his crate that night, like there were so many things that this could have gone wrong. And, I remember being like, can we go inside now? And so we, you know, go in with officers and, you know, there's my pew pew and they are taking like the magazine out and making sure it's not loaded and things. And they're asking for like my registration for it and everything. And so I go upstairs and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And I bring it downstairs and I just remember being like, I feel like I should call my parents and like have them make sure they know what's going on. So they're also on the East Coast, 3 hours ahead. So they're already up for the day. I try calling them. Turns out like my mom was at the gym. My dad left his phone in the back at the room, like wasn't by it. So no one's answering the phone call, of course. I try to call my sister. She doesn't pick up. And me and Henny are like sitting on the couch and the cops are like, okay, so we're talking to the police operator and the phone number came from a Google Voice number. And I'm like, okay. And they say, this is how this happens. Someone buys a fake phone number that's like untraceable and they call in a crime and they called in this specific crime hoping that, you know, we would come here and harm you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, we don't take swatting now as like a funny, harmless prank. Like we consider whoever is doing the swatting to be putting out an attempted M word on people because they are hoping that someone's going to hurt the live streamer or the creator or whatever in that process. Like it's so dangerous now that with how many accidental and like misidentified pew-pewings are happening that I guess the police are like, we're taking this as somebody is trying to put harm on you. And this whole time I'm still going like, I really don't think I'm famous enough to be swatted. Like, I really, like I got enemies, but I don't have like enemies. Like this is kind of like excessive. And you know, I start thinking back to every interaction I've been having and a few things had stuck out in my mind of messages I had received leading up to this date that were very like aggressive and I should not have like responded, but I did. And then I like blocked them. And, you know, it's men that I had a differing opinion about women's rights with, and there are access to reproductive, like it was stuff that like I would do normally. And I'm starting to think like, okay, there's like those people. And then there's also like my Amazon wish list. In my head like pops up where I'm like, could someone who had like sent something off my wish list, because every now and then like I'll get something, and I had gotten something recently where I was like, if they had like called customer service or support or something and like wanted a return on it, would it have somehow given them my address or information? Because again, I'm thinking like, how does this person get my information? I'd also thought about some like interesting issues I was having with my security system that week, that had never happened before. Fuck you, ADT, by the way. Truly never get ADT. And I just like all these things start running through my head that I'm vocalizing that like could potentially be the reason why. Now, what's it going to do for me to give the police the name of a troll Insta account that is not going to, like, how are they going to trace it? Like, I can give them leads, but they flat out tell me there in that moment, like, there's basically nothing we can do to trace this. Like, there's really no way we can find out who did this. And they also said, we always, in these instances, are like looking around the scene too, like, of the swatting, because a lot of times the people who called it in like to show up to the scene, pretend to be just like a bystander, like, oh, what's going on over here? And like, we're looking out if there's anyone out there that doesn't look like they belong. Back at that place, we used to live across the street from like a pretty like public place that like people would come in and out of a lot. And of course there was like a ruckus among us, and people were out there like looking looky-loos, being like, what's going on? And I was so at that point like defeated in that they were giving up before I could even like get anything started or like get any information to them, or like they honestly, like, their whole demeanors really like became very like nonchalant, kind of casual. And they said, and I was like, why the fuck did like so many people show up here? And they said, well, we were also right on the end of one of our shift switches where like the nighttime people are off and the morning people are starting to come in, so you got like double the call. Like, basically morning people and night people who were just ending their shifts were showing up or like answering these calls, and you got like double. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so these are people who like haven't slept all night and are like at the end of their shift, and they like wanted action, or like the people who are just getting here are all jacked up, like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like, I just didn't like the energy of the way anyone showed up there. I don't think I'm supposed to, a cab. And they're telling me like there's no recourse in moving forward. Like, they essentially are like, I can give you our card, and if you have any problems, you can call us. And I'm like, I don't feel very satisfied with that answer. So I message a detective that worked on the previous home invasion just to be like, hi, like, I'm going to call you later, but like, just wanted to ping you that like some crazy shit just went down. And, my family finally FaceTimes me back, and I'm like sitting in the living room with a bunch of police around me, and they're like, it's 5 a.m. where you are. Like, at this point, it's like 5:45, 6 o'clock. They're like, what are you doing? Why are you so up so early? And I'm trying to explain to them I got swatted, and they're like, what the fuck is swatting? And I'm like, ask my sister, explained it to them, and she's like, I don't know what it is either. And I'm like telling them someone called in a fake crime to try and like maybe hurt me. Like, this could have been a swatting attack also. Like, it could be totally random, and I'm just happen to be the person that's in the house. And yeah, the cops basically were like, all right. And it was so wild as they were leaving, because me and Henny are just like, okay. And there's like a couple left, like straggling, and they're like kind of walking out the front door, and they're like, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, thanks. It's all good. Don't worry about it. No big thing, chicken wing. Like, it's cool. Like, bitch, I almost shot y'all. Y'all almost shot me. We almost had a sticky situation. Like, this was a high octane, high energy turned like flatline, no big deal, like, holy fuck thing that was just so weird. And one of the officers that I was chatting with, because he asked like, why do I have a firearm? And I told him like the safety stuff, and I was like, I think that's also why I'm like reacting so strongly, is like I'm like, I have PTSD from this, like, I'm not the one. And he said, surprisingly, or like unsurprisingly, this happens a lot in this area. Like, he's like, we know that there's like a streamer that lives down the street, and there's this person, the YouTubers, and like this actually happens to them a couple times. Like we've had to be at their house like a couple times, and we can't treat it differently. Like we might see the address pop up, and like I was like, is there some way you can put it in your system, like if this happens again, that like it's not a crime? And they were like, we can't, because like what if it is? It's like not the boy who cried wolf situation. Like we have to treat every time, and it's like it's fucked up and it's upsetting, and like it's so just like intrusive and scary, but they have to deal with it every time. And I was like, holy fuck. Like I got so nervous every night thereafter of like, is it going to happen again? Like, is this like, I was like, how am I supposed to go to sleep tonight and just like hope it's not happening? And he said, well, I can tell you this. If I were you, and he's like, cause you're not, you weren't live streaming when this happened. And I was like, no, that's why I'm like confused. And he was like, well, if I were you, I would not talk about this publicly, like on your podcast, on your Instagram. I would not give it any attention because that's what they want. That's what the swatter wants. They want you to talk about how either how scared you were or how bad it fucked you up, and like how you like maybe even got hurt or like, you know, don't feel safe. Like that's what they want, is the attention and your acknowledgement. And I was like, God damn, just send me a nice message on Instagram. I'll reply that way. Like, what the fuck? Like, holy shit, you don't have to do this to get attention. But that's like the psychology, I guess, behind a lot of these swattings, is that they want to be able to brag to other people like, oh yeah, I did that. And she, like, I fucked her day up, and I like, you know, hurt her essentially. And I just remember being like, this is going to be so hard not to talk about, because that's a big reason why. And then they said another reason why is if you act like this never happened, they don't have any confirmation unless they're watching that this happened at all. Like they have no confirmation they got your address right. They have no confirmation that we came, like that we treated it as such. Like they can only hope and assume. And I was like, fuck, you're right. Like I don't ever want to give them that validation that like, yes, they got me. And, you know, now that I'm a year out of it happening and I'm no longer at that address, there's nothing tied to me there anymore. And like, I learned a lot about privacy and safety since then, that like, I feel comfortable talking about it now in a way that, again, like I know and remember coincidences and things that had happened leading up to that night that I think I have an idea of what happened and who it was. But there's also a chance that this was a random attempt, like a kid pulling a prank. You know, like it could be 1,000 reasons. And I think that fucked with me of like not knowing. Like I said, like the nights thereafter, like I was like, hey, bitch, you're sleeping in my bed every fucking night. And it just made me very, really confused and angry for a while. And I didn't want to give it power, and I didn't want to give them any power. And I think a lot of the trauma behind how I felt after also was because of the home invasion that had happened not too long prior to that. And, you know, I just felt like when I started doing EMDR last year, because of all of this, that I did not want to be afraid of it anymore. And I didn't want to fear speaking about it, or like having this experience be something that was like a secret that I felt like ashamed of. And, you know, I don't anticipate this ever happening to me again, but like, God forbid it does, I know how to act and react, and like the things I would have done differently. Like I said, thank God we followed all like the best protocols that we could have at the time. And like as much as ACAB, like there were a couple of officers that, you know, I could tell did care about our well-being and how we were feeling afterwards. And that this is such a fucking waste of city resources as well. Like, it is an astronomical waste of resources, and it's also a crime to report a false crime. It's also like attempted assault and hurt on someone else. And I just felt like I was carrying around this thing, this wild thing that I didn't want to feel bad anymore. Like, I look back on that experience as something as like, what the fuck? Like, that is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And I don't want it. It doesn't have any like power over me anymore. And you know, the athlete and I said goodbye to the cops, and we went back in his room and kind of like laid on the bed with Hippo, and we were just like, how are we supposed to just go back to our day? Like, we're supposed to just go to the gym, carry on like nothing fucking happened. Like, it was, for the next couple of days, it was like the only thing we could like think and talk about. Like, remember when that happened the other night? Like, was that a bad dream? Like, holy shit, that was fucking nuts. And, you know, of course, our families knew, and our very, very close friends knew. And they were like, holy shit. Like, everyone reacted the same way of just like, yeah, that's our worst fear. Like, that as a creator, that's your worst nightmare. And we're very kind and supportive after that. And yeah, I think when something like that also happens to you, when you have like that many pew pews ever pointed at you in your lifetime, you feel like you don't, you know, it's kind of like a what do they call them, like near death experiences, but like not exactly. Like, you become you have a lot of gratitude for the people around you and the way things could have gone. And me and the athlete were like, Jesus Christ, between this and like everything else we've been through, like, we are fucking trauma bonded, whether we liked it or not. And yeah, you really get a look around you, and you think about your safety and your privacy. And it didn't stop me from speaking out on issues. You know, not too long after that, we had a election of a president. I'm still very vocal about my politics, my beliefs. I had an abortion. Like, I didn't let it change anything. It introduced me to EMDR. I got, you know, more in touch with my mental health. Like, even as someone who wrote a fucking book about anxiety, I got to deal with this new fun anxiety problem that I had life threw my way. And what doesn't kill me makes me stronger, truly. Yeah, I guess that's all, folks, you know. I like I said, like I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time, and it only started to feel safe to do so recently. And I feel pretty good about finally getting this out off my chest, bringing awareness to it, making sure, like, if you are a woman, to check your safety, to always let, like, you know, your friends, your closest friends, have you on your Find My. You know, say goodnight to your loved ones every night before you go to sleep. Give your dog an extra kiss before bed. And, you know, if you are a woman, I think you should look into protecting yourself, however that looks, whether it's mace, bear spray, fucking, I don't care, switchblade, whatever. But just like knowing at the end of the day, you are the one that has to protect yourself, and to take that seriously, especially in this day and age with all the crazy shit we have going on in the world and on the internet. Anyway, that's that. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. If you have any resources that you want to link, I'd love to see. I'll try to put a link about the documentary that I watched in the description. And thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me feel safe to trust you all with this information. And I'm very grateful that I have you, confidants. Okay, that's it for this week. It was a wild journey, and I'm sweating. Should we all just have like a deep breath together? Whew. All right, bitches. Go crush this week. I love you. Bye, confidants.